Welcome to the Friday Power Lunch, a weekly show amplifying the voices of the Virginia grassroots. Each week, we provide engaging conversations about politics, culture, and women making change. Produced by the unstoppable women of Network Nova, our motto is, when we vote, we win. The Friday Power Lunch is recorded before a live Zoom audience. Follow us on social media. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and show us some love and become a sponsor through Patreon. The Friday Power Lunch. Badass women getting things done.
It is November 17th, people, and welcome to the Friday Power Lunch. And today's theme is Election Insights 2023. We're ready for round two. And I'm Catherine White, bringing you the guests, the issues, the action, and we're amplifying the voice of the grassroots to get things done. And you know us, to make politics fun. So I'm excited today for today's lineup. And I want to make sure that Fennell jumps in here with me. But today we have Rachel Bitecofer, political scientist, national political analyst, and author of Hitting Where It Hurts. Hey, Fennell. And
hey there.
We're going to do some Hitting Where It Hurts today. And the book is How to Save Democracy by Beating Republicans at Their Own Game. So I love that. And we have some good follow-up today with her. And our one and only Jim Shelton. He is a political strategist for 31st Street Swing Left, and we love the 31st Street Swing Left peeps. And Susanna Gibson is here. She's the former candidate for House of Delegates in HT 57 to tell her story. So we're glad to have her in the room today. And Susan Wagner, co-founder of Markers for Democracy and the co-lead of the Grassroots Collaboration Project. So, it's going to be a great show today, but we do have some rules of the road we got to do. Important, right? So important that today, this is a great community we built here, and we always keep the chat open so you folks can share your stuff, share your links, comment on stuff, but you know how it goes. If you get nasty in that chat, we kick you out. Just bye-bye, see you later. And that's how we roll. There's nothing new. And also the after chat, what fun we had last time when Rachel Bitecofer was able to stay. And if you stayed in the room, it was the best conversation. And Fennell, you missed that.
I missed that. And you know how I feel about that. So I'm so excited to be here today.
I know you, and I learned so much in that after chat, but we're going to chat her up today. So please stick around and budget some time for that. And also, to support the show. We were so thrilled last week. We got about 4 or 5 new Patreons, and we keeps the lights on. More than that, it really puts the money into the people doing the work and bringing the show to you every week. So thank you to our new patrons, Peter Nyson. Thank you, Peter. Joanne Thomas, Molly Harris, Eva Thorpe, and John Cluett. And hey, join that list. Be a supporter, right? What do you think, Phil?
Right. I think so.
Are you busy?
I'm here. I'm right here with you. I'm waiting for that power chat to come, but I know you got more stuff to do, so do your thing.
No, I'm just teasing you. I'm just so glad you're here and you look great. And what I want to talk about is, us. We did thinking about, we're going to have some fun, but we really are still celebrating. But we also like to unpack around what happened. And we also like swag. So I want to bring up what people could purchase today and wear during Christmas time or holiday time or gifts. We have our hoodies available today through our Badass Boutique. We voted Democracy won, and they come in gray, black, pink, blue, maroon. I think we have it covered, and we will have some kid sizes and even maybe for little ones, a little onesie. I can't wait to wear mine. I love my hoodie. That I still have from, I think it was 17.
Yeah, I can tell you that I'm getting the gray one. So I know Robin wants the black one, but I'm getting gray. So
yes, the gray. You can't go wrong with the gray. So so order that today. This is really cool. What a great gift. We're sending one to Simon Rosenberg to say thank you. And we'll definitely have. We also have mugs. So we have to make sure we have a little merch going on. And one big announcement is we're not going to have a show next week. So Robin. Yeah. You want to show that? Just put that on your calendar. We're going to be putting some turkeys in the oven, and Rachel will tell us about the recipe for putting our MAGA guests also up. Passing the gravy. So no Friday Power Lunch next week. Look at those turkeys.
Yeah, that's good. That we're going to gobble gobble.
All right, good. Speaking of gobbling, so let's talk about how you're feeling about this. We're what, just a week out, or how long the celebration? 2 weeks. How are you feeling?
I'm still celebrating. I'm still celebrating, and but I'm also ready for 24. That's why I can't wait for the show today. I'm really happy to take a little bit of a look back, to just sort of take a look at things and what went really well, how we move forward. But I'm anxious to hear what Rachel has to say. I'm excited to talk to Jim. I'm really excited to talk to Susanna. So I think I'm ready. I'm ready to move forward. But we still got work to do. I mean, we still got women that we have to get elected. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, and I'll have to say, with now, I know in the audience, what we want to do is make sure we always say it's a time to be thankful. So we are making sure we're sending the love to our candidates, sending the postcards of thank yous. I know people in this group are doing that. It's really important that we use this time to make sure that people feel like they've been supported. And so we also are going to take this time to debrief with the candidates and the campaigns, because we really believe that this information is key. We did not win by we won, thank God. We have a little tarp over us. The brick wall, I think of it as a tarp. We have a little cover from the MAGA right now, but we have to use that time to figure out how to keep them on the ropes and just to the knockout. And I think it's relentless now that we talk to voters, we message, we get to them, and we just keep punching until the knockout comes, because we have a little bit of time to figure out some of those razor thin, some of them we didn't win. I think we need to dig in now for strategy, why, look at it, analyze it, right? Because I'm sort of I
was going to say, this is sort of the white space for a minute. And so while folks are sort of, calm down for Thanksgiving and getting ready for the holidays, I just think this is the time that we go full on.
Yes.
And I think this is the time that we take the opportunity, and I feel sort of bad using this word, but I think we dirty them up. We dirty them up. We dirty them up while they least expect it. So I think over the holidays, your Facebook, your Twitter, your TikTok, you just lay into them, and you just make them afraid that we're going to come looking for them, because that's what we're going to do.
That sounds scary. Okay. Yeah, electorally. Thank you, Rachel. She corrected.
Electorally.
No, we are. Yeah, and I do think I'd like to show that Chelsea Handler. Chelsea always puts it where I think our minds were this last couple of weeks, thinking about women leading, women running. What do you say, Chelsea?
I think we are in a very important cultural moment, with women dominating culture. We have,
I agree.
The two highest grossing tour. I mean, look at Taylor Swift. She's like our president now, I'm like, Taylor Swift is ruling the universe. Beyonce, the two highest grossing tours of the summer are women.
Yes.
The highest grossing movie of the year, the highest grossing movie of the year was directed by a woman about women, Barbie. And look at Coco Gauff and how many people are watching her win her very first Grand Slam versus watching the man who broke every record and is breaking them. And
women.
And just the way that women are showing up for each other. You look at women's soccer, it's more watched than men's soccer right now. You look at women's volleyball, 92,000 people showed up at a women's volleyball game indoors. That's crazy. Anybody in a position of power should respect the fact that we are in a moment where women are finally dominating in the way that they deserve to be. Women have been so underserved that when we're represented, we show up in droves for each other.
Yeah.
We go and men show up for us too.
Yeah.
So this is a pivotal moment in our culture, and I always want to be very respectful of that.
I wanted to jump in and just say quickly, which is, there was one country that actually had Beyonce-flation, because when her concert came there, when her tour was there, everything went up. But beyond that, I just want to say, when it comes to women legislators, they are typically 33% more successful than men, because they build consensus when it comes to really tough issues. So this is a really important time. It's a really important space. We got women in the Senate, women in the House. This is big for us, and we just got to keep it going.
Yeah, and I think we got to hold people accountable around this too, right? Like I think our issue is very important. Our freedom, reproductive rights, and sometimes it feels like we don't get the position of power, though. I think a lot of us, I'm looking at our leadership now that was elected, they're men. it's like, it's sort of like, hey, Mamie Locke was to me like a look over 20 years, the money she raised. It is what it is. These are things out of our control sometimes, but I think it's also looking at the congressional seats, making sure that we do get some women back in those seats. There's an importance to that representation that really makes a difference. And as you said, with policy at the table that matters, that changes and reflects our life. So I do agree with that. So, because I did also look at some of our races where women like Lily Franklin, Jessica Anderson, they came in really slim margins to win, yet weren't supported like some of the other candidates. And we'll unpack that at some other time, But, I can't help but say that. You just don't want to make judgments, but we're going to unpack and look at this, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, there's always lessons learned. And that's one of the things that I think is really powerful about this group, about our organization, is that we get to take a look at it and decide moving forward, what are we going to do and how are we going to do it? And I think we don't look to anybody else to make the change. We make the change and we make it happen.
We go in early. We go in earlier with some of these races and all that kind of stuff. And I do want to say that about the media too, and I'll talk to Rachel a little bit about this. When we're looking at the media, I know we saw David Hogg in that video that supported Darius Clark went down, and he is supporting younger candidates around gun violence. He's doing that. And we saw that, with this recent thing with the Washington Post came out, where they are finally they're finally breaking the rule of not showing the gun violence of the AK assault weapons. And now they did a special report where they actually are showing these very powerful images. And I think it's a game changer when it is around this issue of what these guns really do.
Yeah, I think that we've been talking about it for a really, really long time.
Right. Very
and I think we've always talked about Mamie Till and the courage that it took for her to not close that coffin, that casket. And I think this is what happens when it comes to gun violence, is we need to make these people look at what is happening, and then you tell me to my face that you think that's okay. And we're not just going to do it around guns. We're going to do it around everything that they do, because when you peel them back and look at what they do, they're going to be ashamed, and we should make them ashamed.
Yeah, I agree with this. And that just came out today. So it'll be interesting to talk about that, and the media when we're looking at this race on the national level, the media's responsibility, accountability. So I'll be interested to talk about that also with Rachel. Speaking of that, why don't we just get right to it? Let's talk some turkey with Rachel Bitecofer, passing the gravy around. Hi, my friend. How are you doing?
I remembered to unmute. I am doing great. Are you kidding, guys? I am doing great, right? Yeah. I cannot believe how good we did on. I mean, I can, because I knew if we made the strategic shift, we would do better. But, to see it and I tweeted out, listen, y'all, I didn't tell you this before the election because I have like psychologically vulnerable people that follow me. And I didn't want to tell them, if the Virginia state legislative cycle doesn't go our way, that will tell me that we're at a disadvantage in 2024. Okay. The polling, none of that stuff is relevant, but the hard data of the special elections combined with this Virginia, where it was partisan elections, not issue initiatives, and of course Bashir down in Kentucky. And so I couldn't be happier, because it means we have a good chance to save democracy in 2024, and that the work we've done in 2022 and 2023, it's doing the job.
Yeah, it did feel like that. I mean, I was just like, that whole day was just holding my breath, literally, as working at the polls and just hopeful of what we kind of knew. And for me, what I saw going into it was definitely a change on the ground of who was participating. And you'll see Markers for Democracy for instance, wrote hundreds of thousands of postcards. The groups that were kind of on the ground, that you couldn't really see or know the impact, but we knew it was there. That was on top of all these other layers, gave me a lot of hope that we were on the right side and we had that sort of energy there, But
yeah, I wanted to believe.
yeah, we did. And you saw the wins
because we would come out of the weekend with the New York Times. It's so irresponsible. It just bugs me so much that the New York Times is so like you know what I didn't realize when I ran the Wasson Center is that I was a crack dealer. When I was giving you guys polling information, I was literally feeding you an addiction. And people are addicted to this polling, even though year after year, cycle after cycle, race after race, it doesn't get the job done in terms of predicting outcome. As soon as the New York Times serves us up some doom polling, everyone's just eating at that trough. And then I'm spending the entire weekend, posting up multiple presidential cycles with incumbents where the polling was not predictive. It has zero predictive power, right? Year out. And so it was great to just come into Tuesday to see what happened down in Kentucky. Bashir ran hard on Roe. That ad I think was probably the best ad of the of combined 23 and 22 because it was real, because it was a real teenage girl that was very like quintessentially Kentuckian too in her voice and whatever. And yeah, it was a powerful campaign, and I'm really stoked that we have a good chance to bring this fight to them in 24.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot going on, with this. And it is all about, how we approach these races. And I think in Virginia, I felt like definitely on message about what was at stake, and leaning into the freedom and abortion thing was very smart. And that took a while to get to when we were trying to convince folks and that the grassroots matter. And the one thing that I appreciate meeting you, so many years ago now is recognizing us and seeing us. And back in 17 and 19, even they didn't really see us, which is kind of nice. It's a cloak of getting our work done. But even with this race, I want to make sure that people know all the work the grassroots did. And it's very easy just to forget. And you see people just forgetting the grassroots. So I'm so glad for you because you really see our work and understand the impact we do have.
Yeah, I mean, more than that, and I, always tell I do a lot of pro bono work. I do paid work. I do pro bono work too with the grassroots. Generally, I never charge a grassroots group.
Right.
But I want to do that because to me, at the end of the day, that's the blood, sweat, and tears of our resistance movement. They are the most important people that we have. And that's why I committed my career in life to making sure that what they're doing is optimizing or maximizing its value and effectiveness in terms of message that goes into that door knockers, packet to come out and whatever. Right. So, I love the grassroots.
And even for yourself, getting at the table. Right, the stuff that you've reported.
Oh yeah, totally, dude. I would not exist without Twitter, guys. I mean, that and my use of Twitter, which I used other people like Nate Silver's account and Nate Cohen.
Right.
These guys don't know how to forecast elections anymore because they're not trained political scientists and don't understand political polarization, right? And I wouldn't exist without that. So.
Yeah, I was watching their Unpack of Virginia. It was just hard to watch. But anyways, that's just my opinion. And let's talk about the poll thing. I don't want to get into the media, as we're heading into now off of this win in Virginia. If you have any more insight on that, we're glad to hear it. I mean, we know why it's important to 2024 for so many reasons. What's on your mind heading into that about what you think Democrats should do leading up to this? What's on your mind about that? And when we do talk about the poll, we see that how they've been used and all that. So going forward, what are some thoughts about how we should look at this election coming up?
Should look at it as highly predictive of what's going to happen. Okay. Anyone who's telling you, well, these Virginia off-year elections really aren't predictive I don't know where they're getting that from. Right. They must have never cracked a poli-sci American politics textbook, right? To put it into perspective, if it had come out different, and let's say they flipped the state Senate and held on to even most of the House, right? I would be moving on to stage 1 of my bug out plan to BC. Okay. I've never like moved on to stage 1, right? It's just there, floating around. But I would be very, very nervous going into 2024, because what it would tell me is even tweaking the strategy, even getting these people to stop with the bullshit mobilization persuasion buckets, right? Even tailoring a message that's threat-based and loss aversion and emotive and delivering it with enough regularity between competitive races to create that cacophony effect that Republicans create. And then we come up short, I would be very nervous. Right?
Yeah.
So seeing the work in Michigan and Arizona and the map last cycle blunting their red wave, which again, control of the House, like there was almost no way to avoid that. The fact that we kept it down to 5 seats was a massive victory. Just seeing that the strategy is going to meet the moment, and then all we have to do is the hard work and the angsting. Yes. Like, that's good. Yeah,
that's good. Well, talk about that, because I know we talked about the last time you were on the show, but we did it in the after chat. And I think that message, I just sat there and had to like listen to you over and over in the after chat when you talked about the buckets and this gone is the day that we put people in buckets in this messaging. Can you talk about that, and then talk about how your book could be used in that when you talk about hitting where it hurts? Like how we have to
that's what the book does, right? I mean, the first part of the book, though, is getting folks to understand, this New York Times came out, was going around Twitter yesterday, an article, and it has a quote. Somebody tweeted out, a political analyst tweeted out about a woman who's like, oh, I figured it was Biden that banned abortion since he's in charge, right? And I'm like, so like the first half of the book is getting all of us in this room right now, people who might stream it later, to understand that like we are unicorns, okay? Because we know who Mike Johnson is, and we know who, Tim Scott is, and like average people don't know any of that. And if we're building an electioneering system that assumes a base knowledge that doesn't exist, we're going to do it wrong right out the gate, right? So some of it is about getting that transition to be like, look, you need to stick the high-level fruit. Republicans are going to ban abortion nationwide, not weedy stuff. Because if there's no base knowledge, it's that low-hanging fruit that's the powerful narrative, top of mind message that you can get across. And, you don't know to do that unless you know what the Republicans have long know about American voters, which is that they don't know a damn thing. They could be very smart. They could have 119 IQ and be running SpaceX, okay? But jack shit when it comes to politics, which Elon Musk, clearly does, right? He knows jack shit about geopolitics or any of the systems of government. So political IQ is different, and it's very interest driven. It's, I'm talking to a big group right here, but like most people don't like opera. Okay. So when I say, what do you know about opera? Name an opera singer. They might come up with Pavarotti if they're of a certain age, like I am, because I remember there was once a famous opera star named Pavarotti. I can't name another opera star, folks, but I can tell you a shit ton about college football. I mean, multiple teams, their rosters deep, the recruiting, the scores, the standings, the conference champion. I know a lot. And why do I know a lot about that? Because I care about it. And so I read about it, and I watch shit about it, and I learn about it. And most people do not have what we have, which is the interest in politics to have developed that kind of reservoir. So then I go into the book, and it teaches people, given A, given this electorate, do B. And one of it is about getting to people to recognize, this idea that you need a special message for Asian Pacific Islanders and one for Cubans and one for Puerto Ricans. No, dude, what they're doing is going down to the Latino voter file with one message. Democrats are socialist, and they're going to mutilate your kids' genitalia, right? Like, it's not catered to some kind of niche interest. And it's just because the technology evolved, and we were tempted because the technology evolves to allow these really tight micro targets like that, identity-based micro targets. And so like when that, I'm like, no, DNC, don't do that. Like, you need to do it this way, because like otherwise you can never create a cacophony. And unless solve that problem in Florida in particular, we're going to be in trouble. So it's getting people to understand abortion works. Why? because it mobilizes everybody in our coalition, including independent leaners who are left leaning, because that 30% is actually 10. Most are left or right leaning, and they behave in data like admitted partisans do. So we're talking about a small chunk. You got to motivate them to the polls with fear of their own loss, not other outgroups themselves, right? Like, I'm a woman, or like my daughter, my family, in an internal personalized loss. And that drives them to the polls, but it also does something very important to the swing bucket, which is nothing that we're only dabbling in now at experimenting on doing. And what it does is it tells swing voters, that's a bad product. Do not buy the Democratic product. That is a bad product. And we don't even have to offer you alternatives, because they never really advertise their platform, certainly not their real one anymore.
No, exactly.
Right? It's about getting the swing voter with low info, low interest. That's why they're swing voters. They don't have ideological passions that push them to lean left or right. Some of them are highly informed. Most of them are not. They're imagistic voters. So if gas prices are high and they're hearing Joe Biden sucks at top of mind awareness, that's it. That's all they know, and that's all they're gonna, be able to convey in a survey. So we really need to be hammering one message, or sniper shot messaging repeated through multiple campaigns, like state legislative, school board, state legislature up, right? And then you support the state from there. So that's what I'm really excited the book is going to do. I'm just going to add, the book is being blurbed by Michael Steele, who's the former Republican National Committee chair, by Jamie Harrison, the current DNC chair, and by Celinda Lake, who you guys might know because she's based in Virginia and does a lot of work. So I'm very excited about those endorsements that they gave to this work, and to urge people to use the information. So
I love the pivot and attack. And if anybody, I'll have to put that link into your Substack. You wrote that great How to Survive Thanksgiving and How to Talk to Uncle Bob Over the Table of the MAGA conversations. And I, Fennell, I don't know if you saw that, but just how to really change the conversation. And I think that's really good training.
Yeah, I used to have this thing, Rachel, that I did. I called it Change the Conversation for 60 Seconds. If you can just get your family to change it for 60 seconds to something different. So I'm really excited about that. And then the other thing about people not knowing Jack about politics, I said to someone early this morning, I said, oh, we're doing the video podcast and Rachel Bitecofer is going to be on today. And she goes, I don't know who that is. And I go, duh.
So true, dude. I mean, like, it's, there's no better fame than nerd fame. Okay.
Yeah,
because no average American gives a flying, and you guys are going to be shocked when this excerpt or whatever, when the book comes out. We got some stuff happening, big stuff. I mean, I'm so excited, but anyway, when you guys read about like how when I argue that Americans know nothing, I'm going to show you that indeed. Of course, I'm not going to just make the claim. Okay. And it is.
We know that.
Well, she knows who you are now.
Yeah, you guys are going to be like, wait a minute, what?
But that happens. I was talking to somebody that likes the Supreme Court. I said, would you read Dahlia Lithwick? They're like, who's that? So I think, like you said, most people aren't nerdy like us into this world of, and speaking of somebody else I'd like to talk to you about real quick is Robert Hubble, that just wrote a really great article about the root cause of the horse race journalism and what we see that the media is doing. There's the media thing right now. Two things I like takeaways that maybe have a comment and then we have to wrap up is the Univision thing with the Latino vote. Yeah. And we see the Republicans trying to go for certain, segments, right? And then this whole thing with, they keep this horse race going with Biden and Trump with not really calling out what's at stake. Just not the odds, but what's at stake, that we should really talk about what's at stake. But the media wants to play the game, the clickbait of just the odds, right? He's old, whatever. So what's your thought, wrap up on the media, and how do we combat that? Like, that's kind of big shit that's going on that place we sort of can't control, but what are you thinking on it?
So, I mean, I swear Catherine has not seen a preview copy of the book. I'm I hate the galley copies. I've kept pretty close to the chest because they have typos in them. And I'm like so sensitive, right? I'm like, oh, can't we wait till it's all finished? But anyway, the other part of the book, Catherine, explains like our media problem, why it does it, how the other side understands and anticipates it with the Bill Barr framing of no collusion, right? He uses the control of the news cycle, and then a very long description of how CRT went from something I who knows a lot, not everything in politics, but a lot, had never heard the initial CRT prior to like 2021, okay? Like, you know, late 2020, early 2021, that becomes the most salient issue in the electorate. Something that nobody has ever heard of starts popping up in these polls, right? And so I use it to show how they do media to frame narratives and to put shit to shape public opinion, whereas we'll do a poll, and many of you guys will know exactly what I'm talking about. Do a poll and they're like, oh, voters are into this thing more than that.
Right.
So let's talk about this thing. All right. No. Republicans are like, look, there's one thing that favors us. Let's just make sure that everyone's talking about it. And then they use their media ecosystem to do that. So that's the other part of the book.
We will have you when it's out. We'll come back again in the spring, hopefully, and see you. Thank you for being here. And I'm just excited. Hopefully you could stay with us, and you can, you know, if you need to go off screen and take care of Hammy or the dogs, that'd be great. But if you can stay, we love it. If not, we understand. So thank you.
I wish I could today, ladies. I got a jet, but
go ahead. All right.
Now I'm like, oh man.
But just tune in. Stick around for Jim Shelton is going to be the political guy for 31st String. You may be interested in what he has.
I do want to see. I actually want to talk
around a little bit.
Susanna too. Really. Okay, maybe I'll just stay.
Stay a little bit. Just stay. Get some popcorn.
That's going to make me late for my allergy shot, but that's fine.
You'll be fine.
That's fine.
We can always listen on your phone too if you have to get in the car. So
I'm going to go off camera and hide and let everybody else have some camera time though.
All right. Thank you so much. And let's bring Jim. All right. Thank you. Good. And I'm so excited that Jim Shelton is joining us.
I am
Jim,
too.
welcome. I'll let you and Fennell get at it. Welcome and see you guys later.
Thank you. Hi, Jim. I'm so happy that you're here. So I get to tell a really quick story. So I ran in 2021 and I knew that I wanted 31st Street to support me. And so I called Jim. I can remember the conversation as if it was yesterday. All the questions you asked me about the election, about who my constituents would be, and low propensity voters, which is what I was really banking on, those low propensity voters. But you guys supported me, and I am grateful. So you get to tell us today all about 31st Street Swing Left, and all the work that you guys actually do. So I'll let you get started.
Great. You know, Rachel is a hard act to follow. I'm going to be much more, I don't know, academic or something, and I have to show slides, and the leadership has allowed me to show slides. It kind of broke.
Yeah, very special. Very special.
So we'll go ahead and do that.
Now we know why, right? Now I'm teasing.
So just a little bit for those people who may not know about us, we're all volunteer in the Washington, D.C. area. We're just about electing Democrats. We don't really get involved in policy discussions per se in terms of our timing, and not involved in primaries, just focus on the one thing. And we mostly just raise money and do canvassing. We do a few other things, but again, focus oftentimes is a good approach to things. And we have certain state priorities, 5 or 6. Virginia, of course, is one, but there are other ones, particularly in the region. And I'll get to this later, but we're not just about the election cycle itself, but about infrastructure building, because we really think that that's a better allocation of money in the long run just for us to be successful. So what did we do in Virginia this cycle? Well, we did raise over $500,000. And $450,000 of that was directly to campaigns, and most of it early, June, July, and August, when it was, I think, most helpful to campaigns to get them going. Much later, there was a lot more money, of course. We did over 12,000 doors knocked. And I will just go ahead and say, because it's important in more of this, that I actually did 2,000 doors myself. And I'm not saying that to brag, but rather to say that I did talk to a lot of voters and non-voters. And I don't know if Rachel is still on, but I will say that very often for motivating those lower propensity voters, particularly the sort of loss of rights, loss aversion approach was actually quite successful. And we also did try to do same-day registration and voting. I'll come back to that. 5,000 Working America letters, if you happen to know those folks, they're quite effective. And this is quite, I think, notable. We did find an organization called Turn Up that in just the course of just about a month between when school started and the deadline, in key districts, this is all in key districts, registered almost 1,700 high school and community college students. And for those of you who know voter registration, that's actually a very, and at a very low price too, cost. So I will say, I have two things to say about how I think we could do better. And one is to come back to this theme that Rachel to some extent alluded to. I really think we do ourselves a major disservice by not spending a lot more emphasis on lower propensity voters. Or the playbook typically is you do persuasion and you kind of get around to these people later on, if at all. When we canvass, we insist, and you should too, that we get turnout scores that go all the way down to 0. And I can tell you that it's very rich, in my opinion, in getting us votes. But this is the one thing that I think is probably my biggest takeaway, which is that, we just recently got this same-day registration and voting. And some of it went pretty well, but my view is we should be actually emphasizing a lot more. I mean, I'm pretty sure people are pretty familiar with these pictures of students at William and Mary lined up for 2.5 hours, right? Now, why do they have to line up for 2.5 hours? They should be registered in the first place. But secondly, there are a lot of other people besides students who will do same-day registration and voting. And I know because I talked to a whole bunch of them as I was doing my canvassing. And the point here is that our voters are much more mobile. They're much more, they move around more, especially in these denser areas where we like to canvass. And, you can find them during a field program. But in my view, the party and others should be reaching out to them through the media to let people know that they can do the same-day registration and voting. Okay, so now that's for Virginia. Happy to talk about that some more. But we do have these other states. We do have this huge agenda that Catherine mentioned about 2024, really. And there's so much money that's spent on campaigns. There's so much money, especially on the marquee campaigns, and so little, in my opinion, that goes to doing the sustaining kind of things that will help us sort of ongoing basis and don't just evaporate at the end of a campaign cycle. So we have 4 of them. Call them our 4 pillars. State Democratic parties, and we've done some of that. Youth voter registration. I think this model with Turn Up may work really, really well in a lot of, especially House races and other U.S. House races. On the ground, grassroots groups, of course, not like us. We're not that on the ground. It's the C3, C4s, those kind of organizations. And then lastly, something people may not really have been focused on very much. We call it honest media. It's an alternative to the right-wing propaganda sort of machine, which is actually what's chewing us up. In my view, it's part of the reason why our polling, such as it is, isn't better. And there is an organization called Courier Newsroom that we're hoping to support, that among other things for Heidi, they do reach out to influencers. I know that's something that she does also. So with that, I'm going to stop. Hopefully you'll engage with us.
Yes, and so I do. I have a couple of things that I really want to talk about. And I will say, one of the things that I love about what you do is that you really are on the ground. And when you're on the ground, canvassing yourself, those 2,000 doors, you get to see and hear so that you know of your work, what is working and what we can pivot towards. But I do want to talk a little bit about your infrastructure building in terms of how you think and what you think the most important part of that is going to be for 24.
Wow, that's tough. You know, I'm a little bit intuitive. I haven't quite figured that out. Right now we're going to probably do something in Honest Media specifically for Pennsylvania, which with this group Courier Newsroom. It's called Content Management, which they have, let's say, democracy-leaning stories, blue stories that they want to disseminate. But particularly, they're very into the influencer world. That's about how they want to go about what they want to do, and I think they really know what they're doing. So that's our. But also, I think youth voter registration. I'm still kind of drilling down a little bit about how these folks did what they did. But what they did is we actually they registered more young people in Pennsylvania, twice as many for the same money. We only paid them $100,000. They did all this stuff, and the way they do it, I'll just say they pay students a fairly nominal amount of money, and they have techniques for reaching them. I mean, the students are well motivated, and they train them about how to do voter registration, both in person and virtually. So, then after that, it'll be Democratic state parties and on the ground grassroots, depending upon how things evolve in the election, and as we're watching which states need help and why, and so forth.
So I have a really hard last question for you. So with all of the canvassing, loss aversion, loss of rights, which is a thing that I run into a lot, is people have lost their rights, and we try to work through that where we can. So canvassing, I'm thinking that it's like, there's like not one thing that's effective, that this year, 24, it has to be and. What's your next and?
Well, one thing is every election is different. And this was an ultra low turnout election. So these voters were even more important. I will say one thing that works really, really well and there's techniques for reaching those kind of voters. When you tell them that these votes are often decided, as they often are, by 100, 200, 300 votes, their eyes light up. Like, yes, that really does motivate them. And you need something emotional, as you know, to kind of get people up and out and voting.
Yeah, I'm so happy you said that. I have this great picture with someone that I was at the Walmart handing out flyers, and we took a picture together. And I said, when we win this election, I'm going to post this picture and say, your 2 votes won the election. And they were really excited. So I'm happy to hear you say that. So it's and. Thank you, Jim Shelton. I always love seeing and talking to you. So now, before I bring up our next guest today, I really want to take an opportunity to just say thank you for all of the candidates who ran. Whether you won the race or you won in a different kind of way, I think we always have to say thank you about that. What I love is that we are sending thank you cards to all of the candidates who ran, whether you won or whether you didn't win. So Robin, can we show that card? Because I think it's so special, because it lets people know how heartfelt their contribution is, what they sacrifice. So if you can see this card, it just says, I enjoyed writing postcards for you this year. Wanted to say thank you. It can be a scary world, but people like you truly give me hope for the future. Hope to see your name on future ballots. Thanks again. Now you have to say how wonderful that is. And hopefully these candidates will get these cards over the holidays. And anyone who wants to write them can go to our site. You can say what you want, and we'll send you the address so that you can say thank you for the great gift of time, effort, commitment, and courage that candidates gave for this election. I want to bring up Susanna Gibson, who certainly gave time and courage and commitment to this election, of which you came very close. It was only by 2 points. So, Susanna, thank you so much for being here today. And yeah, I see there's applause all around for you being here. So I'm delighted and thrilled. And so you are really now, after this campaign is over, you are focused on something very different, which is really talking about women and really talking about how there are two standards, one for women and one for men. And so I'm going to let you sort of open up and say what you want to say. And then I've got some questions for you that I think folks will be really interested to hear your courageous responses on.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me, and hello to everyone. I'm Susanna Gibson. I was the Democratic nominee for the House in the 57th district, lost by about 630 votes, give or take, after all the provisional ballots came in out of about 33,000. So very close election. And I have just really started speaking publicly about what has happened and what I've experienced just as a woman and a woman running in a particularly contentious seat this week. And it feels great.
Well, we are really glad to have you here. And just sort of to set the table for everyone, as this election was happening, we knew that the top issue was really about abortion. And the person who was running against you really was for banning abortion. And after that happened, they went around and they found some salacious, to whoever's opinion that is, photos of you, pictures of you that were streamed, and then they shared them. And I think many people around the room are just like, the very first thought they have is, well, my goodness, why didn't she tell someone about that? Didn't she know better? What would be your response to that?
So I found out that there were even videos ever made of me, much less pictures, 4 days before that Washington Post article came out. I had no idea. I found out because reporters started calling one of my consultants trying to get my phone number. And I didn't know what they had. I really, truly was just completely blindsided. And so what I tell people is, you know, finding that out and going back and forth to try and keep images, explicit images, and pictures of your naked body from being splashed all over the internet is something that I would not wish on my worst enemy. It was horrific. But I've come out stronger.
Yeah. Here's what I would say. I think what I want people to know is people are like thinking, well, you know, I'm so disappointed in all of these things, but I'm not sure that they think about what that felt like for you. And the fact that after all of these things happen, I think people sort of have to sort of dig into themselves and say, what is more important, sexy photos or keeping my abortion rights? And you had lots of experience at the doors where folks would say to you, hey, I am supporting you because I care about these issues. But you have some thoughts too. I want people to sort of understand the courage that it took for you to stay in this race, because you did not bow out. You stayed there, and you are very, very deliberate about why you stayed and what it means for women. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a strong women's rights advocate. I've always been very strong and into reproductive rights and women's rights. And actually, I went back to school to become a nurse practitioner because I wanted to work in women's health. So this is something near and dear to my heart. You know, what I will say is this: women are attacked on our qualifications. We are attacked on our intelligence, and really, truly, we are held to a different standard. And the reason that I didn't even think for a second to drop out is, well, one, I'm not the one that splashed these images all over the internet, right? But also looking at it and taking a 40,000 foot view or lens, as millennials age into running for office, which, by the way, I am an elder millennial. I'm the oldest possible millennial. But as millennials age into running for office, a lot of us were born with technology basically in our hands, right? There are going to be very few millennials, especially women, who don't have some kind of picture or video on their device, on a partner's device, on an ex's device, somewhere in their cloud. And if we allow the treatment of me and these political tactics to remain acceptable, not become, remain acceptable, it's only going to further discourage future generations of leaders and women from running for office. And what I tell people is this, I think I just said it in the first interview I did. You don't get to treat women like this and expect us to sit down, shut up, and go away.
Yeah, I think what I found interesting is, though, the way that some women responded and acted. Is we've talked about this. I'll just use the president, who wants to grab women by their hoo-doos and has accused of assault, has had to pay. But it's okay. It seems like 50-something% of women still seem to think that's okay. So talk a little bit about the difference between it's okay if the boys do it, but if the woman does something, she's held to an entirely different standard.
Yes, I mean, legal consensual sex with your spouse or with your partner, whoever that may be, is deemed disqualifying, right? From a lot of different people, I've been told and asked that question a lot. Is this disqualifying? Absolutely not. My sex life with my husband, anyone's sex life with their partner, is quite frankly no one's business. It does in no way, shape, or form impact your ability to do your job or to be a legislator. But there are a lot of people, especially the Republican Party. Glenn Youngkin, for example, demanded that I explain my sex life to him. It's crazy. It's crazy. And I would love to see him demand that Donald Trump explain his actions and his sex life to him. It is insane. So, but yeah, women are held to a different standard. What happened to me, it would have been a bad news day, maybe 2 or 3 for a man, as opposed to a national news story. And I would argue that legal consensual sex with anyone is not newsworthy. But what is newsworthy is abortion rights on the line in Virginia. What is newsworthy is gun violence and what we can do to actually prevent it. What is newsworthy is funding our education system and making sure our kids get home from school safely after they receive the best education from the best teachers, and we've set them up for the best chances of success in the future. That's all newsworthy. So
yeah, that's all newsworthy. Susanna, I am grateful for the lessons that you've taught us in terms of when something like this happens, because it will happen again to someone, is that it is an opportunity for women everywhere to stand up and to stand beside you shoulder to shoulder to talk about what the real issues are and what is important. So I want to thank you. I learned some lessons from watching how graceful you were at handling all of this. And I just want to say a huge thank you to you.
Well, thank you for being on my side and staying in my corner. We have to support each other because, again, this will continue to happen if we let it remain acceptable. And so I am just laser focused on how can I prevent this from happening to other women in the future. And I'm not quite sure what that looks like yet, but I truly want to dedicate the next few years to helping women run for office, but also preventing this from remaining normal. So thank you, guys.
Thank you. I just wanted to say too, when this Senator Lucas was just right in your corner right away.
Yeah, she was.
Miller, the same thing right away. And it was great to be in that community because we endorsed your race and interviewed you. And what I had to say that this is just kind of a side note, but all the pictures that they were putting out had you at the Women's Summit. And we were just thrilled that we had the background of that. We're like, oh, that's Susanna, but that's her at the Women's Summit. And I'm like, and underneath it'd be like Susanna Gibson at the Women's Summit in Virginia Beach. I'm like, hey, we got some. So that just gave me such pleasure to just see all those colors behind you. And thank you for joining us to tell your story. Because I think a lot of us in the room listening to you now, it's sort of like, yes, that is so right. why didn't you, were you not allowed to come on and say this before? Because it's just so, or maybe you were saying it, we didn't hear it, but is this the first time you're really talking about it?
I spoke with the AP on Wednesday, actually, an article
Wednesday.
today. Yeah. But, there are two strategies you can take. So you can take the, let me come back and go out punching and swinging and yelling, or you can just not give it oxygen. Again,
Right.
it wasn't newsworthy in the first place. It was no one's business in the first place. And it wasn't.
Good point.
Then.
Yeah, but I do think that we should come out punching and swinging, and so the next time we're in a situation like this, we're going to come out punching and swinging, because when we say don't give it oxygen, it just gives the Republicans an opportunity to give it oxygen.
That's exactly right. It does. And I will say voters didn't care when I was knocking doors. I knocked probably 100 doors a day for the last 2 months. I took off clinic to be able to do that, because I knew that if voters met me in person, they would say, oh, she's normal. She's a mom. She's just like this woman. And voters didn't care. Voters really, truly, after the shock, which again, we can talk about why that's even a shock, but after the shock wore off, they were like, you know what? It doesn't actually affect me. I care much more about how she's going to vote for abortion, how she's going to work to keep our kids safe. That's what they cared about, which is why then the Republicans sent out mailers, explicit content mailers.
Mailers have a backlash. I would think those mailers that they sent out, people would have been just like, would have really been a backlash against those mailers that they sent. Did you find?
There was a little bit, but this is, the thing I think that I find the most jarring is what we deem newsworthy nationally. So the Republican Party of Virginia sending sexually explicit mailers of a woman running for office to thousands of voters, that should be national news, right? That is a new low in American politics. And, the fact that there was a Republican political operative who found images and videos of a woman running for office and shopped them around, violating state and federal crimes or laws, with the intent to harass, intimidate, coerce, but also to influence the outcome of an election that could be the majority maker or breaker for the House. That is newsworthy. But America's response, and so many people's response, including a lot of women, was, oh my God, how could she do this? Not, oh my God, I can't believe that someone would actually use that as a political tool. So it's interesting. I think we really need to work to shift the narrative there as well, and really examine that.
Taken. Absolutely. And no, thank you very much. And I know I see Lisa Sales has her hand up. We are on the hour. We want to get to Susan Wagner. Lisa, stay with us in the after chat. Suzanne, if you could stick around, and if you want to, please do. Alrighty, so let's get to Susan Wagner. Thank you so much, by the way. I think, gosh, just so important that we bring these stories up. And democracy, Marcus for Democracy, Susan Wagner, co-founder and also co-lead of the Grassroots Coalition Project. I mean, what a show, I have to say. Glad you're here to share this with us, because you guys did such great work for Virginia, and you just your story. Start out with a little bit of, so people in the room may be new to Markers for Democracy. Tell us about your group, tell us what you do, and then tell us about this new project you're going to be working on.
Terrific. I just want to say, Susanna, good for you, and being the mother of millennials. I really get you, and being in a number of generations ahead of you. The fight is never over. They're just never over. We fought in the 70s, 80s, and now you're fighting a different type of fight. But at the bottom, it's really the same kind of issues. So good for you. All right. Markers for Democracy was founded by a lot of women from my generation, who are people who were in the fight in the 70s and 80s. And a lot of us came on into careers in those times, lawyers, doctors, nutritionists, etc. And after 2016, none of us were happy. And we got together at Le Pen Quotidien, which is pretty famous in New York. I don't know if it's famous across the country. And we started to write postcards for candidates. And this was for the 2018 elections. We've been around since 2017, and we're actually having our 5th year anniversary party very soon, one online and one in person. We're having the one in person because we started off in person, and one online because when we had COVID and we had to go to Zoom, we did that seamlessly. And now we have a group of people from all over the country, and we didn't want them not to be a part of our party. So we're planning 2 of them. I would say Markers for Democracy is all about community. We started off, no exaggeration, with 4 of us. And at a certain point before the elections in 18 and 20, we could have 100 to 150 people sitting at Le Pen Quotidien taking up all their tables, but we did tip very well. So we have a story that we think we sent somebody to college based on our tips. And then we decided that one of the things we wanted to do was not just be involved in politics, but we wanted to be educated advocates. So it was very important to us to bring in journalists and experts and lawyers and people who've been working on academic stuff that feeds into policy. So we are really informed activists. I know I don't have the time to go through it, but my friend Ellen Bender is going to put our link tree in, and everybody can read the link tree. But you should know that our group, I think, is very different than a lot of other groups in the sense that being informed advocates is very important to us. We have grown by leaps and bounds. We have a book group, which we call OBG, Obama's Book Group, because we once had a president who read, and we've read a lot of books off of his list. But we've bonded over all of that, and we really are a very supportive community. I hope everybody will look at the link tree and figure out what they'd like to join us for. So that's Markers for Democracy very quickly. And I can talk about it in the after chat.
How many postcards did you write for this session? I always said hundreds of thousands. Do you have
hundreds? Somebody's on from my group. Would you?
Total? Well,
how many postcards did we write?
And you also, well, she's getting that number. You also texted and you did phone banks, because that's part of your activism
and
too.
We did vote curing, and we did canvassing.
Awesome.
But one of the things we found, which leads me into the Grassroots Collaboration Project, and is a little unique to New York, is that you talked about it somewhat. Respect for grassroots groups and what grassroots groups really are about. Grassroots groups are not the labor unions or working families party. Those are not what we are. We are groups of mostly women, oftentimes women, sometimes with men, and we are a separate entity. We are new muscle for the Democratic Party. And I know the pundits that we all listen to or read, Hubble and Jessica Craven and Simon Rosenberg, they get it. But I don't think that the state parties in many states get it. And you all might know this, that our lovely state chair in New York compared our grassroots groups, this is the Democratic state chair, to election deniers yesterday. So you can imagine what we're up against in New York. And we have been pushing to just be helpful. As I say, we don't want your jobs. We don't want to run for your offices. We just want to help you based on our grassroots information. But we have really been resoundingly rejected. And as you probably all know, Long Island had major losses. Yes. We wanted to help. We were not really welcomed in. And so when I've been talking about this on various groups, Susan Labandabar, who many of you probably know, who is a major connector and a super connector, I call her, sort of reached out and said, you know what, we're going to start this Grassroots Collaboration Project, which the other co-lead on is from 31st Street Swing Left, so it all comes together, which is Julie Greenberg. So we got together, we sent out a survey to all leaders of grassroots groups, and we asked them about their experiences, positive and negative, in terms of working with state parties, in terms of their working in grassroots groups. And what we found based on that survey was turned into a 58-page report, which we have shared with many. I think Ellen is going to put into the chat a link for our directory.
Very nice.
And
Yeah.
which is going to be a directory of all grassroots groups. So I hope anybody here who's from a grassroots group will fill out the form for the directory. And based on that, we'll see whether you are a part of this sort of grassroots organization. But our goal is to give grassroots the prominence they deserve, that we all deserve. I think the truth is we're carrying the Democratic Party on our shoulders. Robert Hubble said that so much. And I just want to talk about one other thing. I'm reaching out for help here. I've started to work on a documentary about grassroots groups because I believe that there's a political industrial complex out there. All those marketers, all those people who run up the tab on every single one of these campaigns, and you listen to candidates who say, I have to raise $50 million to run for this, or I have to raise $7 billion. And then you think about what goes into that and what we've all done for free, how far we go without a penny being spent, which is why I think they're very resistant. And I sort of want to expose that. So if anybody on this call has worked on projects, documentaries, etc., please reach out to me. I'm just about to do a pitch, and it's not my area of expertise, and I could really use help.
We got people. We definitely have some people we can connect with that. And I, by the way, agree. It's hard to even say this, but it's not hard. It's easy for me to say because we've been through it. I saw people in the room know this. Our state party doesn't like us. It doesn't like us, and that's weird. Like, how can I say that? But it's true, and it's like, what? I don't want your job.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah, no,
I'm not
really,
a threat.
yeah.
I'm not a threat.
It's kind of like weird. You're thinking, we're trying to help. We're trying to just fill in the blanks. We're trying to whatever, and then you see that there must be something else going on. And like you said, this money and the consultants and how much people make. Yeah, I don't know if that's the threat or what it is, but love to unpack that more with you. And I think it's timely. And I said to this team, especially after this election, we need to be part of the narrative. We need to be part, we have to insist on it. And I knew that in 17 and 19, that I actually would stand up at events after they'd list everybody who was there, who did things, and it wasn't any of our groups. And I would say, I would just stand up in front of, I don't care who you are, congressperson, a senator, I'm standing up. And I said, and the grass, I would just make sure that we weren't forgotten. And we are part of actually the driving thing. And I think what we're going to do in community is really make sure we're building this community, and it's going to be really what's going to help us win back our democracy. This is how we're going to do it. So, right, I'm ready.
I add two things to that.
Please,
that's
go ahead.
So relevant. One is it's really women, and it's a very interesting thing to look at. Why is it that women are really the ones who are going to motivate this type of change? And it's not just because some of us are retired. It's not that. It's very interesting to think about that, drivers of changes in society. So I really want to highlight that. The other thing I want to highlight is, there are progressive groups out there, but even the progressive groups sometimes are resistant to the notion of grassroots. And
Yes.
I have tried to stand up in certain environments and just say, hi, I'm here. We're grassroots. We really carry you. And when you need us, you kind of come calling, but yet you're not willing to give me a seat at the table, as I say. Yeah. And I find that interesting. I just find that very interesting.
And when we do our events and we need sponsorship, that always comes clear to me what the value is placed on stuff, and then who really kind of does see you as valuable. It really does separate sometimes of really just speaks a lot, speaks volumes. So look, stick around. I am so excited to be, and I know that Fanel and other people in our group have been going to the meetings in this collaboration project. And I think, again, it's just going to be, this is the way we roll. This is the way we're going to really win in 2024. There's no doubt about it. So thank you so much for everything you do, Susan. We really appreciate it. I'm excited. And we're going to need to get our sweatshirts back up. And yeah, as we we want to make sure next week, remember Turkey Day. We did a lot of great turkey talk today. It was so exciting, but no show next week. And right now, order that hoodie. You're going to want to wear this around the holidays. And I'm going to tell you that Robin made mine into a pillow. So from 17, because I got ink all over it. So you can also repurpose it. I think we should sell pillows. But I want to thank everybody for being here. What a great conversation. Stay for the after chat. Rachel Bitecofer, loved it. I don't know if she's still in the room. Susan Wagner from Markers of Democracy. Susanna Gibson, thank you again for your story and sharing it with us. Really means a lot to us. And Jim Shelton, just doing the work, just smart analysts. We are experts. Let's just embrace it. We got people in this community as smart as shit, and we're so grateful for that. And our patrons, make sure you support us. Throw some money at us. Why not? This is a great thing to do. It really helps us feel like we're valued. So we appreciate you if you're a patron, and you get a special background every week. So with that said, thank you to the whole team. Follow us on social media and stay for the after chat.